Hi and welcome to today's video. We're going to follow on from last time and we're going to do a little bit more Fusion 360 today, something a little bit more advanced. We're going to introduce dimensions and see if we can get an assembly going. So yeah, it should be pretty interesting. Just a quick note, some comments came in from the last video and for some bizarre reason YouTube hates me and I can't see them. So I get a notification to say there's a comment on and I can read like the first line. And then it goes away. So I don't know why that's happening, but the comment was related to when you start Fusion 360, you get a message that says this license will end in some generic date in the future, and there should be a click here button within that message to upgrade your license. You just click that, follow the instructions, and it should give you, I believe it was 4 options. One's the commercial use, one's a startup, one's the personal use, and there was an educational, I think it was. So just hit the personal use one, and then you have to wait 30 minutes for reasons that can't be fathomed because Autodesk make you wait. You've got to close the software, wait 30 minutes, go back in, and it should be fine. If you have any problems with that at all, just let me know and I'll see what I can do for you. Anyway, enough of that, let's jump straight into Fusion. Okay, so here we are back in Fusion, and what we're going to do today is going to create a box. Say you wanted to 3D print some box that you wanted to store some small parts in or something. You would need to put some CAD on the screen, right? Okay, so this box can be rectangular or circular or whatever. We're just going to do a rectangular box, and I'm just going to take you through the entire process. So, as we learned yesterday, the first thing we need to do is sketch on any plane. Doesn't really matter, I'm going to choose this one today. And I'm going to choose a rectangle, and a rectangle is 2 points, so we click and click, and that's it. Now, different to the last video, we're going to start using this sketch dimension button. You can press D on the keyboard to get that up, or you can also press S on the keyboard. That's S for Sierra, and it brings you the shortcut menu, and you can pick dimension from there. So I'm just going to click the line, click the dimension, and then type in 75. That'll do. And then we're still, you can see by the little symbol next to the cursor, we're still in dimension mode. So we click again and we click again, and there we're like 50, no, not 520, 50. There we go. And we've got this rectangle, and then I'm going to press escape to come out of dimension mode, and I'm going to finish my sketch there. Now you'll notice I just shoved that sketch anywhere. It doesn't really matter what you try to do with this stuff at this stage. Maybe in a minute we'll talk about that, but at this stage, who cares, right? So we're going to extrude this because we need to give it some height, and I'm going to give it, say, like 30 millimeters. So we can type that in there, or we can click on the dimension here and type it in. You can do whatever you want, or you can just drag it up and type it in. So now we've got a brick, maybe, yeah? I'm going to call that a brick. And it looks really, really crappy. Okay, fair enough. So what we do next is we want to hollow this thing out. Now there's a couple of ways we can do that. We can press this button here that says shell, and if you hold over it, it basically says, okay, it'll remove material from the interior part. So we hit that, we literally say that face wants to be removed, and I want the wall thickness to be, say, 3 millimeters. And hey presto, we've now got a box which has all the walls of 3 millimeters, which is quite nice. And if you look down here, you can see we've got a little shell, which is pretty cool, but not really that impressive. So one of the nice things you can do with 3D CAD, this is across the board for any 3D CAD software, which is structured, you know, SolidWorks, Pro Engineer, Inventor, Fusion. We can take the rollback bar here, and we can slide it back, left click and drag it back, and we can temporarily remove the shell from the timeline or feature tree or whatever you want to call it. So let's say I wanted to round the corners of this box off before we apply the shell. We use this tool here called fillet, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to click. If you point at a line that's hidden, you don't have to like turn the model around. It will allow you to click through the surfaces, which is quite nice. I'm just going to click all those 4, and I'm going to drag this in, and you can see what happens. We're going to round off the corners. And I'm just going to do like a generic 5 millimeter round. Now, if I then take the rollback bar from the bottom left and drag it back and bring the shell back into play, what you'll notice is the shell has now incorporated this round in it. And that is why you have structured CAD and parametrics and all those buzzwords that people use. It basically just means that whatever we build in this line starts left to right, and the things on the right depend on the things from the left. So we've now got our box, but it wouldn't really be much of a box if it didn't have a lid. So to attach a lid, we're probably going to need some kind of lip to allow it to slot in. Now, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to click sketch, and I'm going to sketch on this face here. It should turn blue. There we go. And it turns it around so we can see it. Now, I don't want to have to literally sit there and go, okay, line, curve, all the way around here, because that's just going to be tedious and shitty. So there's a command here called offset. It's next to the scissors that we used last time. So I click offset, and then I click one of these lines. Doesn't matter whether it's the inside or the outside, depending on how you want it to be offset. If I click the inside one, what I can then do is I can then drag this, and it will literally take the geometry from the line I clicked, and it will offset it by a value. Now I want to go this way, and for some reason this way it's a minus value. Thanks for that, Autodesk. And there's a flip button here that we can press to kind of flip it, which just takes the minus value away. But for some reason the direction I want to go is minus. So I'm just going to type in minus, if I remember rightly, that was 3 thick. So we're going to do 1.5 to go halfway, and then we see we get a little automatic dimension added. Okay. So if I just click finish sketch and then extrude, what we learned last time again was we can pick either one of these bodies, either one of these regions to extrude. So I'm going to extrude the internal one, and I'm going to extrude it up by like 2 millimeters or something. The design for this box is just in here. I'm just making it up as we go. You can do whatever the hell you want with your box, and you'll get somewhere pretty fast. I mean, you can see there our model tree has what, like 2 sketches and 4 features in it, and we've got the bottom half of our box, which is pretty nice. Now, I might want to think, I want to put some kind of latch mechanism on here so that when you attach the top of the box, it clips in place. And how am I going to do that? Because we said last time you have to click on a face to sketch on it, that there's no face in there that I can click on. Now you can do a couple of things. You can go to this construct menu, and you can click the end, and then you can basically drag a plane into it. Now if I remember rightly, our box was 75, so if I do minus 35, that should be, maths is failing me, that should not be in the middle. See how easy it is to make a mistake? So I'm just going to right click down here on that plane and delete it. So to take the mathematical equation out of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my very first sketch. Remember that one? We just did it a couple of minutes ago. And if I do edit sketch, we can see here that this rectangle is blue, and it's just chucked in somewhere in the middle of space. And if I grab a hold of the corner, you can see I can actually move the entire rectangle round in space, which is probably not that great in this occasion. This dot here is what we call the origin. Now, we have the 3 planes, the front, the side, and the top. And where those 3 planes intersect, that point is called the origin. So that is here. So we can imagine that this green line is one of those planes, and this red line is another one of those planes. And if I was to spin it round, and if there was a 3D line sticking out here, that would be the other plane. So what is probably the best idea with this box is to put the rectangle so that the dot is in the center, right? And what we can do is we can draw a line from the corner to the corner of the rectangle. Press escape to end that command. And I can click that line, and over here on the right hand side I can click this construction button. And what the construction button is, it turns the line dashed. And that doesn't split the rectangle into 2 regions. That just allows us to use that line to line stuff up. Now if I click that line again, hold down shift and click the origin, what you'll notice is we get this triangle constraint called midpoint. And if I click it, what it does, I'll just turn the view around so we can see. What it does is it allows us to put the exact middle of this line onto the origin. So we've now got our box exactly where we want it in space. Now if I just end the sketch, you'll notice that absolutely nothing has happened. So that was totally useless, right? Well, wrong, actually. What we've done, if I expand the origin and I click on these planes, what you'll see now is that our plane is exactly through the middle of our box. So I can sketch on that plane and it turns the box around, but if I go up here and I go circle, well, somewhere there, and then somewhere there, you see that dashed line that appeared? That's like literally relating the two circles together. So it's clever enough to do that. But what I really want to do is I really want to select one of the circles, hold shift, select the other, and say horizontal. Can't. Maybe it's already applied. No, it's not. Ah, you've got to hit the center of the circles, of course. Autodesk. And then hit the line of the circle, and then the line of the circle, and say equals. So what we've got now is we've got two circles. I can't move them. I can't move them. And they're the same size. They're all linked. Parametrics is great. Now what you might find is we can click this line here, but that's not a line, that's just a face. Well, when you look at the end of the item and it turns out a line, you can then use that line and we can do midpoint on it. You see you get these like weird kind of purpley pinky circles. That's what we call temporary geometry. So that's just literally Fusion saying, okay, I'm going to use this temporarily because that's what you want. And I'm going to go across to this side and I'm going to do the same on here. So I'm going to go there and there. Nice. So now the only thing that we can't do is move the lines. The only thing we can do is change the size. Now I'm going to press D and I'm going to add a dimension for that line and I'm going to make it like 2 millimeters in diameter. That's too big. Double click the dimension again, make it 1 millimeter in diameter, and we get this little circle here. Right, okay. Now if I click finish sketch and turn it around, what you'll see is that is exactly what we wanted. We wanted that sketch to be on the center or the middle of that face. So we can of course go back in and we can extrude these things out. I'm going to click them both and I'm going to show you what happens. So if I get a hold of this extrusion line and drag it, I hope you can see that we've got some geometry coming out in one direction. Now that's good, but we might want it to be kind of like equal in both directions from using this as the midpoint. So what we do is instead of having one-sided, we can go to symmetric. And what we can see now is that it's extruding one way our dimension and it's extruding the same amount the other way. So if I wanted this to be a 5 millimeter feature, I would change that to 2.5 millimeters or 5 divided by 2, and we get this little cool feature in here. So when we create our very first sketch, I'll just edit that sketch so we can see it. It might be important where the origin is. Okay, this is all what we call design intent. It's how you intend to use the geometry and use the base features, the origin and those original faces, those original planes, how you intend to use them within your model. Now you may do what we've just done and you may think, all right, I've created some stuff and I need to go back and change it. Well, you can do that. You just saw we can do that. Not a problem. So we've got the bottom half of our box and we can now 3D print that. That's not a problem. It might be nice if the box had a top, and it might be nice if we could like have the top of the box in this model so that we could see if it all fits together, right? Okay, so I want to create the top of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an assembly. Now, Fusion, check the time, is a little weird with assemblies because in every other CAD package you use, you create parts and you save them out and you bring those parts in and you amalgamate them as an assembly and you create relations between the assembly. Fusion's different. You create all of your parts in one kind of like piece of space and then you constrain them together. So we're going to have a go at this. So what we need to do first of all is we need to say to the assemble menu, we need to have a new component. So we need to identify this as a new component. We press OK, and you'll notice over here we now have component 1. Okay, I'm just going to go back up to unsave, which is the actual like the file. I'm going to reactivate that by clicking the dot so that if you activate component 1, whatever you create as part of that component. Honestly. So you have to go back to the top and activate the actual file that you're working with, and then you're not creating another component. You're not creating things in that component, so we're going to create another component. That doesn't make any sense. I know, it's just the way Fusion works. It's crackers. Anyway, I'm going to create another sketch. I'm going to put it on this bottom plane, and it's going to be, you guessed it, it's going to be a rectangle. I'm going to shove it up here. I'm going to press D, and I'm going to give it the same dimensions. You can relate these dimensions together if you really want to. I'm not quite sure why you would want to, but you can. What I also need to do is I need to create this around the origin as well, because we need to reuse that center plane, but I'm going to do this slightly different. I'm going to draw a line from the origin up to the midpoint. You see the triangle appeared there, to the midpoint of that line. I'm going to make it construction by clicking the construction over there, and then I'm going to make it vertical. So again, that has made it vertical within respect to the origin and the planes, because we might want to reuse that plane. The height from the origin, I don't care. I'm not really bothered. So I'm just going to leave it. So we finish that sketch and we do yet another extrude. Let's choose that region and let's go like 25 mil. Let's add our fillets to the outside again. I think, if I remember correctly, our fillets were 5mm. And let's shell it again. Or let's not shell it. Let's do it a different way. Let's sketch on the top. And let's offset that outer sketch. Inboard. Which was a minus number for inboard this time. Thanks, Autodesk. Minus 3mm. And then let's extrude that down over. Now what you'll find is you can go right through and you can cut a hole straight through your box. So what you have to do is remember what your original dimension was, and it was 25. 25, take away the 3mm that we want for the wall, so that's going to be 22. So we do minus 20, not 522, minus 22, and that's just another way of creating a hollow box. It's not quite linked parametrically the same way as shell is, but hey, who cares? I'm actually looking at that thinking it's a bit too thick. So what I really want to do is to go back to there, edit that feature, and let's just go for, say, 15. Oh look, we've cut a hole in it. So we go back to our cut, edit that feature, and say minus 12. Yeah. Welcome to the world of 3D CAD. It's awesome. So what I need to do now is, again, I need to sketch on the top of this lip. And if I remember rightly, this one was on the inside. So this one probably wants to be on the outside. So we're going to just use offset again. And we're going to go again, minus 1.5. Right, okay, finish the sketch. And I'm going to extrude that up. So it's the outside region this time. And I think it was 2mm again. Yeah, that looks okay. So now we've got a lid for our box. And we need to add, you know how we added this little like lip feature here? We need to add a little groove to put that in, right? Well, let's see what happens, because this is going to be a little more interesting now. If I want to create the groove, then I obviously need to create a sketch on that plane, because we said we wanted that sketch to be on that plane. But we can't actually see where we're drawing anything, because there's stuff in the way. We want to be like in here somewhere, right? We want to be on there, and we can't see it. So if I just finish that sketch, it's blank, but we'll edit in a second. And I move that back to there. What we can do is we can use the tools menu, and we can use something called the section analysis. In every other software I've used, this is called cross section, but in Fusion it's called section analysis for reasons that can't be fathomed. What we do is we just click the button, and then we click the face or the plane. You can do it like that, or we can just cancel that and we can click that face there. And you can see, if I press OK, we can now see what we're supposed to be doing. So if I bring that sketch back into play and then edit it, what we can do now is we can create our circles. And I'm just going to create these circles same way as I did the last one. Let's have those horizontal. Let's have them equal. Let's put a dimension on them. I think it was 1 mil, wasn't it? and then let's put the center of that on that line, and you can see now that we're in section view, we can reuse that line again. Right, okay, let's finish that sketch, and then let's go back into the solid menu and do an extrude. And this time we want the region that's inside, because we need to cut a slot to receive it. Again, we're going to switch from one side to symmetric, and we're going to do a distance of, I think it was 2.5, wasn't it? And you can see now that we've got this cool little cutout in the side of our box. Now, to get rid of this section view, bizarrely, we have to go to this analysis thing over here, expand it, right click section view and say show hide, or press V to make it hidden. The reason I'm hiding it and I'm not deleting it is because we might want to use it again, and it saves setting it back up. So now we've got our we've got our box lid, and we need to tell the system that it's our second component. So again, we go to new component, and instead of clicking empty component, what we do is click the from bodies button, and we click this body of the lid, and we say OK. And then what we'll find is, after a short delay, we have two components. Pretty nice. And what we can do is we can drag these components around the place, or we can drag one of them around the place anyway. You notice this position box appears as soon as you start dragging stuff around, and that just allows you to capture the position or revert the position back to what it was. So we now need to assemble our box just to make sure everything fits and lines up okay, and what we do is we use this joint button. The joint button in Fusion is absolutely despicable. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. What we do is we click the button and then we point at a face, and you'll see we get all these weird dots and squares and arrows and all sorts of stuff, and we get this kind of like weird round cursor that appears. Now, it's all very important stuff. If we click on the side, we'll notice the cursor, it changes its orientation, and that the half circle on it moves around. Don't worry about it. What we're going to do is we're just going to say to our box, okay, so on this edge, in the middle point, I want that to align with this edge in the middle point. And what you'll find is your box turns over and it wiggles around for a bit, and then it says, is that right? And you just go, no, what's that? So we now have some buttons over here where we can flip, and then we can rotate the angle 180 degrees, and here presto, our box is now assembled. But what we might want to do, if I press OK on that, if we go back to our section analysis and show it, we can see there that our little feature matches up, and it's quite nice, and you can see that it colors the two components different things, which is pretty cool. If I wanted to hide that again, now let's say I wanted to no, you can't move the lid, because this little icon here is telling us that we put a rigid joint in there. Handy. And what it's done is it's locked out all 6 degrees of freedom, so it can't slide in any direction, it can't rotate in any direction, which is handy. So I'm going to edit that just by clicking on it down here in the model tree, and I'm going to say edit joint, and where the type is, I'm going to change that to a slider. And now it's going to animate what direction we're sliding in, and we're currently sliding in the Z-axis, so don't want to slide in the X-axis, no, don't want to slide in the Y-axis, yes, and I am going to click OK. Now what that allows me to do is I can now click my lid and I can slide it up, and if I reactivate my section view, I can now click my lid and I can slide it down, and I can see exactly what happens. You can slide it through the components. There's probably a way to limit its movement. That's far too advanced for what we're talking about right now. This is literally just creating a box with a lid using the geometry, the planes, how you would consider design intent, and then how you would get things to move in your little assembly. So, as per usual, if you got any questions, put them in the comments. We'll see what we can do. I'm going to try and continue these videos in kind of rapid succession. Obviously, I've got a job and stuff to do, so they might not come out like every day or every other day, but I'm going to try and do at least 2 or 3 a week, depending, and I'm going to try and keep them below half an hour, because half an hour. You've got to understand you can't do this stuff in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It's not possible. Well, I could fast forward it and talk with a squeaky voice, but no, it's just not possible. So, as per usual, if you've got anything to say, put it in the comments. I'm not interested about comments on the design, stuff like that. You know, this is a tutorial series. Design what you want. You know what I mean? I'm doing a box. Next time, we'll do something else. I'm not going to do cartoon characters or, you know, just whatever. This is purely to show you how to use the software. If you've got any questions about Fusion 360 or 3D CAD in general, just let me know. And until next time, I've been Steve. Thanks for listening.